and the audio is now live as well.
You're unable to rejoin this meeting because you were previously removed by the host.
Sorry, Lou.
I tried again, and can you let me in, or like that'll probably affect all of the rest of our meetings.
So. You can use my computer if you want.
Changed. Here, I'll plug it back in so you can see it on the monitor.
Is everybody ready?
Okay, so yeah, I can't get them back on today. Okay.
It's 4:41. It's 4:41 p.m. I have turned the recorder back on. And all five of us are currently still here. Erin Nelson is also here. And we can move to number 2, which is a discussion and vote on the act and petition to disconnect 640 acres from the town of Bluff. We've had a lot of discussions amongst ourselves and with the Acton attorneys and Sitla attorneys. You have before you an ordinance that would, if we were to vote to approve it, would disconnect the 640 acres of the Acton property, but leave intact the Sitla property, which is approximately between Sitla, BLM, and St. Christopher's, 8,874 acres. That was, this addresses only the Acton property. Has everybody read the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll need, well, first of all, is there a motion?
Yes. Motion to adopt Town of Bluff Ordinance number 2025-07-10, an ordinance disconnecting the real property known as Section 16, Township 40 South, Range 22 East, SLM from Town of Bluff municipal jurisdiction. The town concludes that the balance of the lands described in the petition owned managed by Sitla, BLM, and St. Christopher's, approximately 8,874 acres, are more significant to the future of the town. Therefore, those lands are unaffected by this ordinance, and resolution 2023-73 remains in force as to those parcels.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, so Jen's seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Yep. Thank you. So we'll do roll call. Let's start with Luanne.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Britt.
Aye.
Linda. Aye. And aye. So it's unopposed, it's unanimous, and I will be signing the ordinance, and we will get that over to our attorney immediately so that he can notify counsel for Sitla and the Actons. Moving to number 3. This is a discussion and vote to approve the letter of support for Bears Ears Partnership and their efforts to provide summer feeds for senior community youth. So did everybody get a copy of the letter of support for Bears Ears Partnership, and are there any questions?
I motion to approve the letter of support to Bears Ears Partnership in support of the Bureau of Parks and Recs for funding for Summer River program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, then all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'll abstain since I work there.
Okay, Britt abstains. We have 4 ayes and no noes. Right, I'm just gonna take a second here so that I not be signing off on too many things, and so I'm gonna hand this over to Linda. This is the ordinance. I've signed it. And then I'm getting the letter. Britt, do you know how old a student is defined on signing?
How,
How old a student is defined as?
it's like middle school, so they start.
2 different programs. They have a middle school program and high school. I only know this because my son participated in both of them, so. They have they have 2 different river trips. They've done a middle school river trip which runs from grade 6 to grade 8. And then they have a high school trip that actually goes until grade 12. And I'm gonna get a copy of that.
Of this,
Yeah, it sounds like a good program to me.
It's a great program.
Yeah.
It was in the years that Santiago has participated in it. I know that there have been multiple kids who, I mean, my child is not one of these because of the place that I grew up, but there have been multiple kids who have gotten to go on a road trip that have never had an opportunity like that presented to them in the past before. So I think it's great.
cool. All right, then number 4 is a discussion and a vote to approve letters of support from private landowners for the BLM's, the Bureau of Land Management's application to designate the Bluff River Trail as a national recreation trail. Luanne, I think this was yours.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this. This is a request from Jeremy Martin, actually, from the BLM. He has started an application earlier in May to make this a national recreation trail that is the whole Bluff River Trail. So that starts here in town with a couple of access points and then ends at Sand Island on that ADA trail. And between the BLM and the Bears Ears Partnership, they did that section. It was kind of the icing on the cake for the rest of the river trail. And now they would like to put it in as a national recreation trail, put an application in. So in order for the application to have some strength behind it, they got letters of support from the private property owners that it crosses, and then they requested one from the town of Bluff. So that's what this is. There's a draft that was included in the packet. That anyway, I can read some of that if you need to, but you all got it in your packets, and that's the approval that we're looking for on behalf of Jeremy, the BLM.
So it's the river trail that the entire river trail.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so the Bluff River Trail includes where it comes out by the old school and the fort and goes down and goes on that BLM loop of 2 miles and then comes through town, comes out on the west side and then continues to Sand Island on the top up at the highway and also drops down and goes on the ADA trail that ends up right in the campground. And that's the part that they're really focusing on, is that's what's kind of the national treasure is that section. The other is more recreational for town and exercise for town and whatnot, but get out and see the birds and the air and whatnot. But that part down there is really
Ask the sticky question, what does it do with 6 West? Does it go up on 6 West at all? Stays down?
Yeah, it's just right. It's all those easements are all in place and they're all solid and they all come through the BLM and all the NEPA process is done, all of that. And that's why it's BLM leading this request to make it a national recreation trail.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions?
Motion to approve the letter of support for Bureau of Land Management's application to designate the Bluff River Trail as a national recreation trail.
Second.
If there's no other discussion, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It's unanimous.
And they are closed, so hopefully he can get it in. Hopefully it doesn't have to delay another season, but his deadline, I think, is the 1st. As long as it gets open by then, he'll get it all in and applied for.
So I signed that one. And I can just make sure that I get at least the 2 letters back tonight so that I can. Oh, yeah, tonight. All right, then. Number 5 is a discussion of the charity bridge fund and application stewardship Utah. So Erin, do you know anything more than what's in the email?
I don't know anything more than what's in the email. I think the big focus for this is that the organization that applies must be a 501c3. So the town of Bluff would not be doing the application for funding. So we would, what was proposed when this was brought to our attention was, could we have our previous pass-through grantee serve as that 501c3, so Stewardship Utah. Now we have not gotten into any would be requested if they're limited or any of this. It's more just, does the council want to encourage Stewardship Utah to apply for this funding for the CCC building? This particular opportunity was specifically launched to close the gap by the reduced federal funding impacts that we've seen this year. And so the new initiative is from justgive.org and they're calling it Charity Bridge Fund. And so I think more of the discussion today is this something that we should pursue with them? How much time do you want Malia spending on this if the application is going through the nonprofit? What would we want to see there and things like that?
So in the information that we got, there were some email exchanges with Stewardship Utah, and they are willing to be the 501c3. And since 1999, Just Give, that provides money to charity bridge funds, has raised over $600 million. And the only 2 prerequisites to being able to qualify to file an application are a 501c3 and then proof of lost funding. Well, yeah, clearly that's something that's there. Is there anyone have an opinion?
Does it help us that we already partnered with Stewardship Utah before we lost our funding to prove that also affected them?
Yes.
Heightening, and then my next question is, does this somehow partner us in a way that we just got out of a partnership with Stewardship Utah that we don't want to venture down again without some more investigation?
I think
I don't want this to become another UDB situation.
so. My thinking would be that we can partner, we can agree to have the application go in and continue investigating whether it's a good fit for us or not. If the application goes in and we get approved for any money, there's nothing that requires us to take money. It would just be probably better to let Stewardship Utah know if we're inclined not to be a partner for something like this.
And I suppose we could word it in some way that Stewardship Utah doesn't retain any ownership of the building. They just are a working partner and we come up with an agreement.
Yeah, I mean, the title is solely in the town's name. It would require us to take an affirmative act to do
And they
that.
said all you need to do to be part of this charity bridge is to be an entity, 501c3, and to be lost funding, which we have. Yeah, so we fit that really well. We don't need to partner with anybody else in order to
And
use that.
my guess is because we had the partnership with Stewardship Utah, that a lot of that work that was done in the agreement with or in the application with the EPA can kind of be transferred over The mayor of Helper, who's with Stewardship Utah, she's all in favor of working on it, so.
Okay.
I think the question that Erin raised is, yes, I would like to see Malia work on it, but subject to the constraints that this is gonna be due in 8 days. And how much work can the other side be doing, because it's technically their application, and assuming there's more staff availability.
I'd also like to see too, I mean, I don't, clearly there's not a whole lot until they actually get into the application. But I would like some clarity regarding like, does the money just go all into their account? Do they have any pass-through partners? My assumption is it probably does go into all, their account. We might have some procurement issues, unless the funding is going specifically, to their area. And I just want to be cognizant of, how that works if they are purchasing like large infrastructure, like let's say they do apply for the $1 million. Originally they had 200,000 as the pass through of that million. If they're doing infrastructure, how do we do our procurement policies and things like that? So it definitely could be a little bit tricky. But hopefully, before the 15th, we could get just like a little bit more understanding as to, the town's responsibilities and obligations if this funding was to come through.
I mean, it's not a lot of time, but I think that at least doing some initial investigation, asking those questions. So what do people think? It's on for,
Doesn't look like we have it for a vote, we just.
I think it's just giving a heads up to start the application and we investigate and then voting to move forward or not, something.
It's great if we have some funding to move forward with the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would really help it.
So
There's,
they make it better too.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and signal that it's okay to get started, and then Erin, maybe you and I can talk about realistic expectations here on who does what to do some investigative work on what this would look like. And I have some time this week among my homework duties to do a little research on this, and so I'll give it a try.
Next Tuesday.
Next Wednesday.
Okay, so moving to new business, update on vacancies on Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission as of January 1, 2026. Erin, why don't you explain kind of where we're at and what we've talked about?
Yeah, so we officially have 2 planning and zoning commissioners who have indicated either resignation or they are now beyond council and cannot serve on planning and zoning. And so their terms are going to be up before the usual term is over. So I'm going to call position A, the first term, that is Amanda Podmore's seat, which has, she indicated that she'd like to be finished by the end of the year. So it'd be 1 year remaining on that seat, expiring, and it would be expiring December 31st of 2026. And then Gary Hawes, who will now be on town council starting in January. He can't serve dually. So his term would be actually for another 3 years through December of 2028. So we have two of these. It is my recommendation and the plan, per their bylaws, we have to advertise for the positions. They need to do interviews. They make a recommendation to council, and then council appoints the member or folks to the seats. In order to kind of meet the deadlines and also just be cognizant of the holidays, I am proposing that we get the notice into the San Juan record starting next week. Applications, that is a letter of interest emailed to the commission, are due by 5 p.m. on Friday, October 31st. They would conduct interviews during their regular meeting on Thursday, November 6th. And then either they can discuss during that meeting, depending on how much time they have, to who they recommend, and then send that to council, or they would even have their Thursday, November 20th meeting to still make that recommendation in time for you all to approve that in late November or early December before the holidays kick in. So we do have those two positions, one for 1 year, one for 3 years. And the notices will go out and I'll get all that information up on the website probably by end of business this Thursday, October 9th.
And the 1 year and the 3 years is, they weren't at the end
Yeah.
of their terms.
So it has to fill the term.
Okay.
So they are the midterm vacancies.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, any questions?
And they sign on for 4 years.
No, they just sign on to.
Oh, sign on
the
to
term.
this, right, and then
Correct,
the
yes.
next, okay, yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Oh, we have dying batteries.
It should be fine. It shows the full battery. It's still running, so I don't know why I did that.
Just needs some attention.
Craig's on too, so we have a backup there.
Okay, well, thank you for being interesting next couple of months with all of this.
A 1 year term and a 3 year term.
Correct, yes. I'm calling them seat A and seat B, but yeah, 1 year term, 3 year term.
And so on our website will be the application process.
Yeah.
And it's just a letter, correct?
It's a letter of interest, emailed to, I believe I have it going directly to Amanda as the presiding chair.
Okay,
So-
moving. Oh,
Just looking, is it not on yet?
No, it's not up there yet.
Okay.
all right, moving to number 7, report on Bluff's planning and zoning work session of September 26, 2025. I put down myself and I suddenly realized I don't, if I even jot any notes because I can't think back that far.
You two were both at that meeting that was in person and I was online.
Do you have a recall us, going back to my notes here to see if I got, oh. Yeah, I do have notes. There was a discussion on conditional, we talked about the conditional use. And then they talked about the general plan update, that there'll be a public hearing on October 28th regarding the general plan. There's a red line document and a clean document, and those are both in our packet, I believe. We still don't have the review of the RV ordinance, and I did send a note to Chris today. Chris McInerney, asking him for a deadline that he's absolutely going to get it to us, because we're going to have a number of public hearings, and by the end of the year. So Erin and I were talking today about putting several of the public hearings together. There was a discussion about sole source aquifer protection, and I've been planning and zoning that Britt and I've been trying to find a date to get together to work on that, but I have more time now for the next couple of weeks. In terms of not having meetings or being out of town. So do you remember anything that you want to talk about?
It kind of morphed into the regular meeting of the 7th, is that right? Or the 2nd of the 2nd, yes.
So you're gonna go into number 8.
Yeah, because it was all, there wasn't anything else that I had
Okay,
taken note of.
so this is number 8, the update on the planning and zoning meeting of October 2nd.
Right,
Go ahead.
right. So then what they've been doing the last couple months, actually, they've been working on the renewable ordinance to get wind energy, solar energy, all of those kinds of things considered in an ordinance, and they've been doing the final tweaks. They got it down to where they they voted to pass it off to town council. So we've got both of those, the general plan and the renewable energy ordinance. Both of those will be on the October 28th public hearing. One of the things with the renewable ordinance is it does require the conditional use. And so that will be a new thing for our town. Because and with the big solar farms and that kind of thing, part of it is you have to have a public hearing on each one of them. That's a conditional use one. You don't just come in and check off the boxes. You have to come and do the conditional use, and you have to have public input at the effect on the neighbors, the effect on whatever people say in the neighborhood of it. There were things on birds, the windmills, they paint every other one blade black so they can see it. There's all these things that they want them to consider. The growth under a solar system, all of that kind of thing. So it all becomes conditional use if it's not just something in your yard. And then also they want to consider decommissioning, so that once it's all done, what do you do with it? You're just going to leave it here and walk away. They compare it to that thing in Moab a lot where that box, whatever it was, the little gondola thing that got started and then just got abandoned. So that's what they're trying to avoid, is that sort of thing, is you build it and then you also are required to decommission it. The building department might have questions after the public hearing, but they didn't have any input on that part. But like in the residential areas, like putting batteries is not an okay, like automatic thing because of the hazard of fire and whatnot. So those are the kinds of things that you can look for in that ordinance. The general plan it's in our packets here, but that's the same thing. They tweaked it. They added a few things. I didn't put a whole lot of notes on the things that were added, but like one of the things was the active transportation plan, to put that in. But those will be online, right? Are they on our website as both?
No, so I was wanting to get direction from council as to do we want both documents, the clean edits, as well as for the general plan specifically, but the clean version or the version with all the markups? What is?
I think for transparency, it's nice to have both,
Yeah.
just so we can see what we started with quite a few years ago and then what they've recommended. And this all came from the Hanson group of what we needed to add on. So I think it's easier to see like, well, what'd you take out and what did you add and whatnot.
Pretty substantial edits, I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it read much smoother with the edits, so.
And
Good
you can
job.
do a hyperlink to just, if you can put a hyperlink in it to where it's easy to. I'm sure you can do that.
Oh, good, like skip down to.
Yeah, or just a link to like, you can just pop up the red line and
Yeah.
the other would be great if that's a.
Yeah, I can definitely do that, and I do think it makes sense, because you guys are both right, like there are substantial edits. The areas that we looked at were the ones that were suggested and or required by Utah State Code via the Hanson group, who explained that to us. But it looks like a lot of changes, and frankly, like there have been a lot of changes in the last 7 years. Like we have quite a lot more infrastructure. If you read the original document, it talks about like all of these buildings and things that, the town did not yet have control over. So, but yes, I'm planning to get that up on the website as well. I'm thinking that since all of these are going to go to public notice, they will be on the public notice tab of our website, which you go to town council public notices, and you're able to put there. For government and departments, town council public notices. Maybe since there are so many, maybe I can send them to Linda to send out in like an email blast. And that way people can just get the direct link to where all of those documents are going to be, because there are going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, I think that would be real helpful.
Okay.
And then the rest of the meeting, it's not necessarily in order, but there was an off-premise sign permit request for the Bluff Fort wants to build a monument sort of sign on 191. It's kind of just north of the intersection to 162. So just up from the Cow Canyon intersection. It'll be on the east side of the highway. It's on their property. It's Hole in the Rock property that goes from that the little alcove area behind Twin Rocks. It takes Twin Rocks in with it and then goes over to the highway up over the top of the rocks. So it'll be on their property. So there's no need for a permission from the landowner because it's theirs, but it is an off-premise sign. So there was quite a lot of discussion on reading the off-premise rules again so that they could make sure their job is not subjective. They have to go right to the rules and decide whether or not it's permitted by the standing rules. And it was approved. They are not putting lights on it at this point. If they do decide to do lights, then Kristen Bushnell from the building department was there. She said they will need to come back for a building permit if they decide to light it with anything other than just like little solar run things. Let's see. Yeah, and you're allowed 2 off-premise signs, so like that would be one of theirs, and then if they were somewhere else with an off-premise sign, that would be their second one. And the sign itself is mounted on a monument kind of thing, so the sign itself was what they considered. And then on building department update, the turquoise is ready to go. It's got all of its permits. It's ready to do its the rest of its construction. Desert Roads cabins are under construction. They're still under a San Juan County permit. That goes in anything till March. I think Kristen Bushnell said it, March is when that ends, and nothing is still on county permits, but that county is still monitoring it and doing the approvals there. And let's see, and then there's a solar permit for the Stevens property on 7th West. Those are all approved projects. And then the questions from building department is getting rid of the LUC, which is the land use clearance application, and also the site plan application. So they're working on that to decide if those are actually something we don't need anymore.
And those would go to public hearing again, since they are land use, so just so the public is aware, like all of that will filter back through and you guys would have eyes on it. Those changes would, I think Kristen indicated that she was interested in trying to get some of those recommendations to even go into that October 28th
Yeah,
hearing, so.
she was trying to get things in by the 15th. Yeah, and both of those, the general plan and the renewable ordinance will be on the hearing on the 28th. So questions?
So I just have a question.
Hi, this is Carol.
Go ahead, Anna.
Is the land that the sign is going on, owned by Hole in the Rock Foundation?
Yes. Mhm.
Did the request come from Hole in the Rock
Yes.
Foundation?
Mhm.
That was my only question.
Yeah, and had the property boundaries on the map and showed where it comes down to a point at the highway, and they've been in contact with UDOT and whatnot, so they seem to think everything was in place and.
So my understanding is the Hole in the Rock is separate from the fort in terms of how they're held. Did they talk about that at all?
He said it was,
For the
he said
fort.
the Hole in the Rock Foundation is the fort and the word, yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
And I guess if it isn't, then what they would have to do is if there's 2 entities, then the Hole in the Rock Foundation that owns the sign place would have to get written permission to the fort to put their sign there. It would be the only thing that would be missing from all the rest of these considerations.
Well, yeah, but if they've approved the permit, it's kind of a moot point. I was just
Right.
curious.
Yeah, that it seemed to be all the same.
So number 9, any further updates on the amended general plan, the renewable energy draft?
No, so we've touched on both of these already. I will put the draft of the renewable energy ordinance up on the website. It'll, like I said, it'll all go under the public hearings. And we'll kind of list them out. Right now, I'm just gonna say they're on October 28th because we have so many of them, and then as we get closer, we will, figure out who's, what's going in what order. For the general plan, I will take that feedback. We'll post the clean edit as well as the full markup. But the general plan can be found on our website as it is right now as well. Then so one of the things that I noted just this week is that, with planning and zoning passing off the renewable energy ordinance, they are ultimately the approving body for a lot of these things. They would, be looking at clearances and things like that. And so my hope and recommendation would be that because we have so many things going to public hearing that do kind of have both entities as the town council and planning and zoning, that I recommend you all hold like a joint public hearing. It is probably going to be a little bit of a lengthy night. That just both bodies are invited, and that way we don't have to hold like a separate one to go back and forth. The general plan also does have a lot of land use directional items, and so I think you as a joint entity, it would be beneficial to have you have eyes on it. We're also talking potentially, depending on like how things are getting back, some other ordinances that, we've talked about, like the Jake breaking and idling and everything. So if we just run all of those in a public hearing on October 28th, I think that would be great. Probably something that we can talk about during the work session. I do have to get the notices out to the San Juan Record for publication this next week. But in all, I think it's just gonna be kind of a lengthy night, and I would perhaps recommend that we start that because we're piling on quite a few. Probably starting somewhere maybe around 5 p.m. that night. And then there's another item lower on the agenda that I need to hit on too, but I'm thinking probably public hearing starting at 5 p.m. and then we'll figure out the organization of what goes where during the work session next week.
So will we need to schedule a special meeting for next week's work session to vote on setting public hearing?
We don't have to vote on it. Okay, here, we can just set a vote. Thank you for raising that, because there will be a special meeting tacked on to next week's work session. So if you have anything you want voted on or decided, but Erin and I neglected, it's been crazy. And so we didn't get, and so we're gonna do that. And then I think I've got one other item that needs to go on, so.
Any other question? And I definitely would recommend that folks take a good hard look at the general plan. Again, most of the recommendations, the recommendation to look at the area came from Hanson Group. Clearly what's going in there is, reflective of the town. And so, this is quite a large document. We are required to have them by the state of Utah